The Texans finally got their GM. And I say the Texans and just the Texans organization because nobody outside of the organization, pretty much speaking of the fans, wanted Brian Gaine, dude. Brian Gaine was probably the worst guy you probably could have went with. In all honesty, I probably would have even preferred Jimmy Ray. Like, seriously, there's got to be a reason why Brian Gaine was fired. It seems like the only person that even wanted Brian Gaine was dumbass Bob McNair, John McClane from Houston Chronicle, and Bill O'Brien. Those are the only people that even wanted Brian Gaine. I think that's just a really stupid signing, stupid hire. Like, you couldn't just wait one more week, Bob McNair, you fucking dumbass. Like, one more week. It's all you had to wait to actually interview a guy that's actually capable of doing a job, a good job. The guy from Phillies, who I'm talking about, Douglas. Or you could have even waited to the end of January, to the early February, to interview the guys from New England. But no. Let's get a guy now. Let's get a fucking dumbass in Brian Gaine. And, the big problem isn't even the fact that he was with Rick Smith already, because that's pretty much, comparing it. It's like you hire Mike Shanahan and then fire Mike Shanahan 3 years later and then hire Kyle Shanahan, his son. Like, if you're gonna go for a culture change, do that shit right. Like, don't pull none of that fucking bullshit you just pulled. Like, seriously. That's so stupid. But that's not the problem. The bigger problem is all Brian Gaine is a yes man to Bill O'Brien. That's all he is. Like, you cannot build a team surrounded by yes men. Like, you just can't. It's like, I don't know, say Bill O'Brien wants to get, I don't know, some crappy ass guy, let's say Vontae Davis. And then Brian Gaine's gonna be, okay, Bill, I'll go get Vontae Davis for you. That's a great idea. Like, you can't have that. Because a good GM would know that Vontae Davis is washed up, he's old, he's injury prone, and he ain't been shit for like the past 3 years. But no, but Bill O'Brien wants Vontae Davis. Brian Gaine's gonna go over there and get him Vontae Davis. Like, that is my biggest problem with it. And it came out by Pat D-Stat a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, and Wink even made a live stream about it yesterday, saying, Brian Gaine was in charge of free agency. And a lot of people seem to think, Brian Gaine was responsible for Osweiler, for, say, Lamar Miller, Jeff Allen, and all the other horrible free agent signings we've had in the past 3 years. But, that's not true, because Rick Smith is the guy in charge. Rick Smith makes the signings. The most likely scenario that happened is Brian Gaine told Rick Smith, don't sign Brock. Brock Osweiler isn't good. That's the most likely scenario, because at the end of the day, Rick Smith is the one that sits the players down. Rick Smith is the one that puts the contracts on the table and tells them if they want to sign or not. Brian Gaine isn't responsible for that. Brian Gaine is responsible for looking at the free agents. Because very well, Brian Gaine could have easily, have told him, don't sign Brock Osweiler, don't sign Jeff Allen, they're fucking trash. And Rick Smith could have been, I want them. And then Rick Smith signed them. And then when they didn't work out, Rick Smith, of course, traded Osweiler and then got rid of Brian Gaine. So I don't blame Brian Gaine for the Osweiler, for the Jeff Allen signings. That's 100% on Rick Smith. Because at the end of the day, like I said, Rick Smith is the one that sits him down and puts the contract on the table, not Brian Gaine. So, I'm not mad about what Brian Gaine has done in the organization. Because we have no idea what he's been responsible for. Like, we don't know if, Brian Gaine was telling Rick Smith not to sign Osweiler and to, keep AJ Boye. Like, we don't know that. Like, that's just all speculation. For all we know, Brian Gaine can be good. But my problem again is, he's just a yes man. That's all he is. That is my biggest problem with Brian Gaine. He's a yes man to Bill O'Brien, and now this team is 100% Bill O'Brien. Like, this team, like, it was probably like 60% Rick Smith and 40% Bill O'Brien, like, these past 4 years. Now, it's 100% Bill O'Brien. So now, if something bad happens in the organization, you point your finger at Bill O'Brien because it's his fault. If something good happens, if for some reason the Texans and Brian Gaine are gonna go 13-3 and go to the conference championship, you point your finger at Bill O'Brien because he's the one in charge now. Brian Gaine is just a yes man. Hopefully I'm wrong about Brian Gaine. Hopefully he's able to bring some good stuff to Houston. But, you know, I'm going to keep my opinion on Brian Gaine. And I'm just like that. If I don't like you, I don't give a fuck if you play for Houston. I really don't. If you're in Houston. If I think you're trash, until you prove me wrong, you're trash. So Brian Gaine, you're trash. And I thought Will Fuller was trash until Will Fuller proved you wrong. So, let's see if Brian Gaine can do the same. So, with that being said, guys, make sure to comment down below what you guys think about this Brian Gaine hiring. And make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.